I'd like to introduce Celia from Ireland, who takes LDN for Parkinson's disease. Thank you for joining me, Celia. Could you tell us when you first noticed there was something wrong with you?
Well, I suppose it was about 2003. I had a bit of a shake in my right arm when I lifted it to a certain height, and I went to the doctor, and he said, "Well, there's really nothing that we can look at. It's not, it's not enough to worry about, and just see what happens next, basically." And then 2 years went by, and it was obviously getting a bit worse, but I was trying to ignore it. I did think of Parkinson's, obviously, and eventually my eldest daughter said to me, and she was she'd just got married. She got married in 2002 and had a little girl, and she was saying, "Mum, what do you think is wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, I think it's probably Parkinson's, but I don't want to know." And she said, "Well, listen, that's what I think," she said, "and I have looked up," and she said, "You really need to start taking, if it is Parkinson's, you need to start taking the Parkinson's drugs sooner rather than later, because it could progress more than necessary without doing so." So I went to consultant, and he said yes, I had got Parkinson's. He didn't do any tests or anything, and so that was 2005. But I didn't get to, I wasn't progressing fast or anything like that, and I've never had a problem with talking. What he did say to me, he said, "It's pure Parkinson's. You're lucky it's pure Parkinson's." I don't really know what that means, but obviously I didn't have some of the side effects that can go with it. But anyway, so I'm one of those people, I've got so much to do in life, and I just tried to, like an ostrich, I sort of started taking Mirapexin and just battled on with life, and my husband was alive at the time. He later sadly got motor neuron disease and died in the end of 2009, quite quickly, and after 6 months after he was diagnosed. And I thought that was very unfair, because I thought he was going to look after me, and it ended up with me being on my own, basically. Mm-hmm. But then the next thing that happened was my right. I had, on a family holiday, we'd all been on a family holiday, and I sadly, stupidly wrenched my ankle and torn my tendon on the inside of my right foot, and this really tacked up on me because I was doing too much, and I think I had 3 journeys with long walks through airports all in quick succession. I ended up coming home in a wheelchair, basically. So that was added to the Parkinson's, and that didn't help at all, and I wasn't able to walk properly for a long time. Then eventually I managed to get some insoles in my shoe, which helped sort that out. My foot's never going to be very straight, but I'm better from that point of view. But by that time my Parkinson's had progressed, and I was beginning to find it very difficult balance-wise, and I was very not at all confident about walking, and it was very slow, and I was getting quite bent over, and this went on, and I never stopped working and I'm working unpaid, I may say. I actually got an MBE last year for Services to Built Heritage of Northern Ireland, because I'm trying to restore and regenerate our model village which I live in, and which my family built in 1835. And at the same time, after my husband died, I had a lovely project which was restoring a house on an island off Donegal. So that kept me very busy and kept my mind off everything, really, which was good. But I was getting out there in the boat wasn't easy. Had to be helped on and off. I had always had my sort of what I call my bridesmaids and page boys behind me, carrying my bits and pieces and helping me do everything I was trying to do. I never had a problem with driving, luckily, so I've always been independent in that way, but sort of getting in and out of the car wasn't the easiest sometimes. And anyway, this went on, and we're now coming to about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. My cousin sold his house to a chap who has become a great friend and actually a trustee of my heritage trust that I run, and he had done very well in. He was a commodity trader, and he'd done very well in the financial world. With they discovered a gas field off Africa and things like that, and he'd bought my cousin's house, and his next project was actually LDN, which he'd come across in the process of all this, and he decided that this was something he would like to invest in. Mm-hmm. And so he was, I mean, all that side of it is a bit vague to me, but he did try and persuade me to take it. And my cousin, who'd helped with the island house, got involved in that too. He's a businessman, and so they're busy trying to get it all on the market. And anyway, so then I went to my consultant eventually, and I sent him a text, and I said, had he heard of LDN? I was under pressure of the nicest kind, I said, to take it. And he texted back to say, yes, he had, and he prescribed it for his MS patients, and he hadn't tried it for Parkinson's. So I went to see him, and cut a long story short, he did prescribe it, and I get it from Dixon's chemist.
So how long have you been taking it, Celia? When did you start?
Well, actually, this is now we're now in February, and I've been taking it since August last year, and I started on. He put 3 mils on the prescription, but when I read the blurb that came from Dixon's, it said to start on 1.5 mils, and I had liquid, so I started taking the I think it was only 1.5 a day, and then I rang them, and they said, "Oh no, you're not meant to do that. You're meant to take 3." That's what it says on the prescription. So then I went straight on to 3, and then very quickly up onto 4.5, and that's what I've been taking ever since. And I didn't really notice an immediate sort of. It wasn't like a sort of Christian conversion where it sort of floored me. No, it was more that other people noticed. People kept saying to me, "Well, what's happened to you? You know, and I realized that I wasn't worried about walking anymore, and that I could. I mean, just the other day I was walking down the street in Hillsborough, Northern Ireland, just striding out across the road and going across. And normally I'd have been hobbling. At one stage I was on crutches, and then I was sort of on a stick, and I was not at all confident about walking across roads and things like that, or going down steps and things like that. But I always had to have a stick or hold on tight or whatever. But that's changed, definitely. And my daughter, when I was staying with her in England for Christmas, she said, in fact, maybe it was even the time before, which would have been October, maybe even October, she said, gosh, Mummy, she said, I can't believe that's you walking behind me, because normally it sounded like listening to you walking, it sounded like you're shuffling, but you were just walking normally, and I hadn't really thought about it, and I was.
That's amazing.
So, and I'm not shaking anymore. I think I've straightened up a bit. Not completely straight yet, but I just feel so much better, all in all, and so much more confident of getting about. I mean, I had put on quite a lot of weight because I wasn't able to walk very, very much at all, and that's all coming off now, so that's good. And that helps.
So, what were you able to write before LDN? Were you able to?
That was one of the first. Yes, I missed that out. Of course, that was one of the first symptoms that made me think I had Parkinson's, because my writing, which I took great pride in, I used to do calligraphy and things like that, deteriorated very rapidly, and I mean, I found it extremely difficult, and it was really hurting my brain trying to write and get all the letters in the right place and things like that, and it took such concentration. I found it quite exhausting. When I started taking Mirapexin, that got a bit better, but my writing was appalling. It was very cramped and things, and now I can write perfectly normally again, which is brilliant. And also typing was the other thing, because on the computer I do use the computer a lot, and I found that was quite an effort. But now it's absolutely fine. Yeah. So that is absolutely fantastic for me. I'm thrilled with that.
Yes. If we were to say before you started LDN, like the week before, If you had to
Yes.
rate your quality of life on a score of 1 to 10, and 10 being the best, what would it have been?
Gosh, that's a difficult question because I try to ignore it. You know, I put it always in the back of my mind. It never sort of got me down. I never felt depressed about it or anything. I just battled on. I suppose I had a pretty good quality of life, but physically, probably, I don't know, about 5 or 6 maybe.
And what
I'm a tremendous optimist, I have to say.
Well, that is.
And then now I would say it's pretty well up to 8, I would say, or even, I mean, in morale-wise, I would say 9.5.
Wow.
You know, I just feel, I feel it's great. I mean, I just can't believe that there's one's been given a chance like that to sort of turn things around a bit, you know?
Yes. I mean, there are so many people out there with Parkinson's that are struggling who will find your story really inspirational. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. And
well, I'm very happy to do that, and I have actually. A lot of people have rung me up because the word has got around that, you know, people say, gosh, you should see Celia, you know, she's on some drug, you know, that it's really changed her. And so I get all these phone calls, which I'm very happy about. I'm very happy to help people if they want to know what I'm on, you know, and I try to do my best. And I hope that some of them have definitely gone on to LDN, including a friend's brother in South Africa. So. And he had trouble getting it. And another chap in South London, he rang me up in desperation. And I think he's managed to get hold of it, and he's started it now, and I haven't heard. I heard the other day he thinks it's a slight improvement. He's literally only been taking it for about 10 days so far. So.
Wow, to get a slight improvement in 10 days is pretty good, isn't it?
well, I hope, you know, maybe just in his mind, but I hope it'll help him, because he was much worse than I was, and he was falling down. He kept falling all the time. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Celia.
It's a pleasure, Linda.